Welcome to We Hear Her. I'm Erin Trenbeth Murray, and I'm here today with another amazing woman who is sharing her story and insights into life lessons learned. Hi, I'm Erin Trenbeth Murray with the We Hear Her podcast for women who succeed. Today, I'm excited to speak with Hyacinth Morrison, and we're going to be discussing transforming the workplace culture, strategies for DEI, and high trust leadership in diverse organizations. And I think that the topic today is so relevant as we're trying to examine our organizations and help take them to the next level. What better than to have an HR expert who's been in the field for over 40 years? So let me tell you a little bit about Hyacinth. She is passionate about mentoring young women and advocating for the voiceless. Hyacinth Morrison has dedicated 40 years to HR, including 20 years in executive leadership roles. She has worked across diverse industries, company sizes, managing populations from 50 to 2,000, and revenues from $30 million to $7.5 billion. With global experience spanning Europe, Asia, Australia, and Latin America, she values integrity, empathy, and continuous improvement. Hyacinth Morrison specializes in strategy, transformational organizational design, culture transformation, performance management, DEI, recruitment, retention strategy, leadership development, coaching, conflict resolution, career transition, talent development, and high trust leader behaviors. That is a lot. She offers advisory services on change management and adaptive strategy, excelling in influencing difficult personalities. Hyacinth primarily assists mid to executive leaders in small to mid-sized businesses, especially in manufacturing and global organization with diverse cultures. And being all across the world, wow, what a benefit. Welcome
Thank
to
you so
being here
much. Thank
today,
you.
Hyacinth.
Thank you. I was going to say, and all of that before Monday at noon.
Right, right. We're not going to tell anyone that you said, don't say it's 40 years.
I know, right?
Well,
It was 22 and a half.
That's amazing. And all
Yeah.
before breakfast on top of that too. Well, I think that I'm excited today. I mean, there's so many topics with your background that we could dive into, but specifically transforming workplace culture. You know, that's a handful of words, but gargantuan, a gargantuan beast to take on for sure. Or as my boss likes to say, you know, that there's more than one way to climb that mountain. And so this mountain, I'd love to hear today a little bit more about strategies and ways that we can begin to approach leadership development, high trust leadership environment. I'd love for you just to dive in and share some of your key strategies that foster a positive environment that is, let's start with just inclusive.
Absolutely. It's funny because as my career went along, I realized that that was something that I was passionate about. But everywhere I went, and they said, we want to transform our culture. And I always ask, what are you willing to change? Because it starts with the leaders and it starts from the top. If you try and change a culture from the bottom up, it won't actually ever change because it has to be completely embedded in the organization. So when I ask leaders, what are you willing to change? They're always like, what do you mean? No, we want to change. We want people to do things differently. And so when I say, what are you willing to change? Because you're going to have to make a change first, the leadership, because they have to walk it. The trust starts and ends with them. So if they say, no, we absolutely care about our people, our core values, our care, and we empower our employees, but then the leadership does something opposite, you will not transform an organization. Even if you say with your words that that's what you want to do, if your actions don't follow it, it won't change. And so how you create and how you transform is, first of all, understanding where you want to go, where you are today, and where do you want to be. The high trust leadership is the be all and end all, because if if an employee comes to you, this is just one example. If an employee comes to you and shares something that they're scared about, worried about, they have a vulnerable moment with a leader, and a leader, one, doesn't acknowledge it or just gives it face value, and two, shares it. And they now know they cannot trust you with information. That trust wall is not going to build. You are not changing a culture when they don't trust you.
Right.
So the trust begins with your own integrity. Say what you mean and mean what you say. Again, it starts with the leaders because they have to demonstrate this. It starts with holding yourself accountable and holding people accountable. If you have high performing people on your team and there's one who is doing whatever they want, they're not showing up, they are contrary to what we say the culture is, and no one is addressing it, you will lose everybody else on the team.
Sure.
So accountability has to be in place. Leadership has to, as I keep saying, leadership has to demonstrate it. But a lot of the time, the culture transformation is because they have to, right? It's the buzzword. We need to change the culture. But if all of leadership, and I mean all levels of it, so if CEO says, no, this is something I'm passionate about, but his direct reports are saying, it's our goal because he made it our goal. And so we're going to make sure that we're inclusive, and we're going to make sure that we're caring. But employees can feel if you're not inclusive and if you're not caring. And let me give you an example how important inclusivity is. The thing that we're all dealing with right now is remote work and hybrid work.
Right.
And I'm not going to go down that path because it's a long path and it's a very winding path. But an example of inclusivity from where I am now, a manufacturing organization who never had to shut down during the pandemic. So they were essential workers, so they worked all the way through. The day and age that we're in, everyone worked remote, and now we have to offer hybrid work because it's the right thing to do. As a business need, we can work remotely and still, we've already proven that we can be productive. I promise you I'm not going to go down that path. However, I had an example yesterday of where they are doing it. They're letting people work remote, and there was a surprise quality audit, and the quality manager was working remotely. And I saw the president and I saw the VP of operations in the room with the audit team. And I asked them, where is the quality manager? And they said, oh, he's remote. And I said, put him on the screen. And they said, no, he's remote. And I said, he's still working. Put him on the screen. This is his audit. Sure. And they said, no, we'll just let him be remote. Remote doesn't mean he's on vacation. Mm-hmm. And so I am trying to introduce what that means into an organization that has proximity bias. And so I don't want to go down that path, but the inclusion is understanding that if somebody is not physically in the building, they are to be included. There's ways to include them. We've got owls, we've got the technology. So my point about the inclusivity is if you are not being inclusive, they also feel that. They also feel that you're checking the box. Yes, we have hybrid work. I don't feel included though.
Yeah. Tell me, let's go back just a little bit. Let's talk about your first point when you were talking about leaders recognizing their desire to change. So they're saying to you, we need to transform our culture. And you're saying it begins with you.
Yes.
So in the practical sense, let's say you're not the owner or CEO. You're a vice president, you're a division director, you're a chief level individual. What advice would you give to the women as they look at themselves and they're trying to evaluate how or what do I need to actually change myself? What exercises or what thought process, or how do you recommend that they hold that mirror up to themselves to say, wow, I'm going to be accountable to this. Okay, I want this in a culture, but I'm actually doing A, B, and C. Like, do you
Yeah.
have any practical
Yeah.
advice for those women?
Absolutely. What I tell people, the best place to start is to talk to people. Talk to your direct reports. This is a partnership that you're going to do together. You're going to lead by example. But I always say to people, meet people where they are. That's what diversity is. Diversity of opinions, diversity of thoughts. So the best place to begin is to have a conversation and say, look, this is where we want to be as a culture, as an organization. What are your thoughts on where we are now? What are your thoughts on me as a leader? What can I do to help you? How can we do this together? Have those vulnerable conversations of where we are now, where we would like to be, what would you like to see from me as your leader? And then have those feedback sessions as we go along. Two-way street. How am I doing? How are you doing? I see it showing up and I don't see it showing up. In this, I saw you did really well. You'll have to embed it in what we do, in how we hire, in the questions that we ask, in performance. So it has to be embedded in the organization. So it's a part of what we do. But it all starts with, how do you think? How can we do this together? That vulnerable place for all of us. But it's acknowledging where we are now.
Yeah, that's hard sometimes for me to take the feedback, right? I can ask for it, but then I'm like, ugh. In my head, I'm quickly running off excuses or rationales. So I appreciate you addressing the vulnerability and needing to be open to that if you truly want to change your culture. Let's shift a little bit to diversity, equity, and inclusion and your work in that space. Where do you find that you have been most successful when you've been helping and assisting coaching companies on and having a workspace that exemplifies diversity, equity, and inclusion?
I love this. We were having discussions as HR execs this morning about diversity, equity, and inclusion, because I was asking them where do we all feel we are today with it? Because there was a big push. It was, we hired people that would teach us how to how to be diverse, and then it just fizzles away. So we were talking about that this morning. So what I tell organizations is, and it's going to sound repetitive with what I just said, it starts with understanding the culture that you have and understanding the people that you have. It starts with recognizing who you have and the differences and celebrating the differences. So an easy place that we started many places ago is just recognizing the different cultures that we have. And every month there's a different culture that you can acknowledge, that you can recognize, that you can celebrate. That's a simple one of acknowledging the diversity or the lack thereof within your organization.
Yeah, if you're not able to show anything, then there might be a problem with that.
There's where you begin. Yeah. What do you have? Understanding what you have and understanding where you want to be, and having the organization understand why. Why? What is the benefit of having a diverse organization? Because diversity, a lot of people go straight to ethnicity, gender. But we have diversity in generational diversity right now. We've got 3 generations in the workforce who think differently, whose values are different. None are less, none are more. They're just different. So it's understanding what you have in your organization, recognizing, celebrating, highlight the differences. Have an employee that's a Spanish employee and what their heritage looks like. Educate the differences within the organization. But I think a lot of mistakes some organizations make is, again, being very narrow to, okay, we'll just focus really on these, on gender and ethnicity. They're easy. But they're then ignoring the so many other differences that we have and voices in the room and being able to give everybody a voice. That's why I speak for the voiceless, because the diverse opinions, thoughts, suggestions, ideas make an organization powerful. When you stop in a room and ask everyone for their opinion, so many times, especially with women, we'll have board meetings or we'll have larger meetings where the men will sit around the table and women tend to take the seats around the side. Having people come to the table who wouldn't normally be at the table and ask their opinion. Give them different ways to have voices, different channels. Have focus group meetings intentionally. Have lunch with the CEO. Have a way for people to ask questions anonymously. Town halls, but where they can submit questions anonymously and you don't avoid the questions. If you can't answer them right there and then, you promise that you'll come back to them. If you give them a voice, you've got to then follow up with them. But that's how you change, and that's how you integrate diversity into an organization. Don't shy away from it. Don't let it be a checkbox. Be intentional.
Yeah, I hear a lot of being genuine and sincere in your comments. How do you work with individuals in a company who are resistant?
I'm going to be repetitive, but it starts with why. Why? Why are you resistant? Because normally, sometimes it's their own unconscious bias, it's their own belief system, it's their own experience. But understand why, first of all. So that's the first thing. If we can understand why are you resistant, normally it's going to change something for me. It's going to make me have to do something I'm not comfortable with. Then we can address the why. We then need for the organization to understand why it is important, because as with any change, you need to bring people along in why are we even doing this? Why do we care? Why can't we just continue and, if we all get along and we have turnover sometimes and people leave, what's the big deal? We have women in the workplace. They're not in leadership, but
but they're there.
They're there. We have ethnicity. They're there. So where you have resistance, everyone needs to understand why this is important, and then they need to understand why it's important to them. So where they're resistant, it's understanding why and to explain the why, and then. I'm moving into a mentorship conversation, but
we'll get to that. We'll get to that. I think that what I really appreciated there was the why. Yeah. It's the education and the why, and that perspective of. I think what you stated that I heard very strongly was to still value why they are resistant. Yeah. Their perspective is important. Absolutely. Just as they being open-minded to understanding how some people are not feeling included. Right. They are not feeling respected. They are not feeling an embracing environment. So
because they have a voice too.
They have a voice too.
It starts with their voice.
Sure. Well, let's shift to mentorship. So you joined Women Who Succeed, and I'm guessing that mentoring was one of the factors that was a reason that you decided to join. Tell me a little bit about your perspective on the role of mentoring.
My goodness. So I have 3 girls. I have my girls are 32, 20, about to be 30, and 25. 3 girls from the same parents and very different girls. And as they were growing up, had to understand who they were so that I could reach them in 3 different ways. As they were growing up, and I was getting it right and wrong at the same time, trying to figure it out myself. One of my daughters, my oldest daughter, was going through, when she hit 15, she turned into the monster and didn't know who she was. Literally that morning. And for about 3 years, I just could not reach her. I was thinking of sending her to military school, and I was like, I don't want to make her worse, but how can I as an HR professional not be able to figure out my child?
Yeah.
And we were talking, and she was telling me about some friends at school, some girls at school, and what they were going through. And I'm thinking, you're going through the same thing. And then the way she was describing it, she was saying, and I was trying to help them, and I was saying, my mom could probably help you. And I'm thinking, but I can't help you. And I discovered, I got these group of girls, and my husband and I was within the church, and we started this, just grabbing these girls, and it grew from 3 of them to 5 to 30. And then there were boys, and it was just talking to them. But I discovered in talking to them about what they were going through, it made my daughter start talking. And when I was trying to say to them, they said, well, you wouldn't understand. And my daughter would say, oh, you have no idea what I put my mom through, and she'll understand. That became a passion for me, to be able to listen and to be able to help guide. And for me personally, with my girls, I always said that I was their greatest example, good or bad. So the reason it became a passion is because I realized, getting it right or wrong, I can still help. And the vulnerability of saying, I've got it wrong more than I got it right.
And learn from it.
And learn from it.
Yeah.
And I realized that people are watching me, and girls are watching. And as I've gone along in my career, I was taught from my parents that I'm blessed to be a blessing. I was taught that you bring somebody along the way as you're going along the way. That's the only way that I have been fortunate. My belief is that's the only way I've been successful in my career, is because I was always looking back to see how I can help. Right now, I have a Latino workforce in Utah that are because it's hard to get into HR for the first time. It's very difficult. And so I am determined to mentor them and their girls, because a lot of the times they're the first ones. One that works for me now, her daughter's the first one graduating from high school. And I am just determined, all the resources, all the things that I have learned along the way, because my 3 girls, they're dynamic. I mean, they're just incredible.
No bias, sir.
But it's because I shared the good and the bad. Sunday, I apologized again for things I remember where they're growing up, because I constantly had the guilt about a working mom who's trying to pursue a career and be a mom, and feel guilty that, should I be able to do it all? Yes, because no one told me I couldn't. But I always felt guilty. Am I spending enough time? Am I doing enough?
Right, it's never enough.
Yeah. Am I showing up in both places 100%?
Well, and what I appreciate there is both your vulnerability with your personal life, your vulnerability of it. What you just said is absolutely parallel to what you were saying earlier about leaders in organizations. And you're walking the walk and talking the talk.
I believe it. I do.
You're sincere and genuine, and telling folks to, hold a mirror up and be accountable and be where you're at and move forward. So, well, I am so grateful that you were able to spend some time with us today.
Thank you so much.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I enjoyed it. Thank you
good.
so much.
Good.
Yeah.
So, Hyacinth Morrison, again, transforming the workplace culture, strategies for DEI and a high trust leadership in diverse organizations. You heard it right here. Starts at the top, the authenticity, being genuine, being accountable, and then being willing to actually make some changes yourself to move your organization to where you want it to be. And what I also heard was carry that through to your personal life. So I'm so happy I got to have Hyacinth with me today. Thank you for joining us for the We Hear Her podcast for Women Who Succeed, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for taking the time to hear her. Join our efforts and learn more about Women Who Succeed at womenwhosucceed.org.